Cool. All right. I think we're live. Cool. Thanks for looking at the presentation, everyone. I hope that was useful for you. And thank you so much for putting your questions in. I'm joined here with Michael Martin, who's our Director of Engineering for Apps, live from Belfast and live in London from our living rooms. Isn't glamorous life. Next year, we're going to be on stage with lights and music, and it's going to be fabulous. But for now, we're doing the COVID version. I'm going to start off with a quick question, then we're going to get into the list. So Michael, like logins. Logins is a big part of this. The world's really moved on a long way since just username and password. We have 2FA and SSO and things like that. So maybe just talk us through a little bit of the challenge we've faced with logins and where we are today and where we're going to take things with that forward.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, as you said, we started with exactly what you described, the usernames and passwords, because it's the first thing, it's the entry step, it's the thing that gets into a lot of systems. But of course, when you're actually talking about the systems that are containing the information that we actually want to put on screen, which is your business intelligence dashboards, they're the systems that you most have upped the security on. So it doesn't take long to bump into, oh, well, username and password's one thing, it's not quite enough. So we're just moving. You can basically peel login into different types of login, and we just peel our way down that stack. So the next thing for us was the 2FA in particular. That's probably the most common thing now. It's massive protection. That idea of having a factor that phone usually, and having that on that person or something that you can physically access. It's a massive upgrade. We use it internally everywhere. Every tool we've put it onto or that offers it, we enable it, and that's the same for everyone we spoke to. So. No, we've support that immediately. And the way it effectively works is we don't force you to use some of the lesser versions of 2FA. So something like SMS authentication and codes are actually slightly less secure because you can effectively try and steal that phone number or do the SIM swapping tricks. Whereas what we use is what you call a soft token or the authenticator apps. So if you're using Google Authenticator, the Microsoft Authenticator, Authy, or any of those apps that work like that, effectively ScreenCloud Dashboards can support the exact same thing underneath the little algorithm that those are all using, and that's why you can use any range of those apps. That there's an algorithm basically that works out those codes based on time, and we implement that natively, and we'll treat the setup for that just every bit of security as the rest of your credentials, and we'll go further and further on to things like SSO. We're looking like Google logins, Microsoft logins, are two of the most common we've talked about. Again, let's support that natively. You shouldn't have to disable things or make weird accounts that are only for dashboards or weird settings. Like the idea is like we'll go as far up that stack as your security team wants to go.
Awesome. And one of the things we do recommend is that people, for their dashboards on screens, that they have a user with like read-only access and a more restricted account just to see the dashboards that are available to them and not to be able to do too much in their account as well. That just kind of adds an extra layer to the security onion, I guess.
Absolutely, yeah. I think you call it the least privilege is the term, but effectively, if the worst ever happens,
privileged user possible.
Always good suggestions.
Let's go into some of the questions. So thank you so much, as I said, for putting these questions in. Some of them came in through that. So how are the login credentials stored and encrypted while using ScreenCloud Dashboards? So Michael, do you want to sort of summarize the authentication process, the identity management side of things again, because that's quite a key part of this, really, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I think that's the heart of it. And to be fair, like basically, this is the crown jewels. That's the biggest thing to actually get across. Out of everything else you're doing, every other piece of information, they're important. They're not your credentials. So that the first thing we do is just separate those out. They do not go to the same database. They do not go to the same applications that are storing your what's on screen, the apps you're using, like that world. It's important. It's not the same as the credentials when you're trusting us with those. What we do is we will, for your organization, we're going to generate a unique encryption key just for your org. And we're going to store that in one location. And we use, as ScreenCloud, we run everything on AWS. So again, the actual storage underneath, we're using products like Amazon's KMS. We're using their secrets manager. So basically, we're putting it in the best places we absolutely can. And we're going to store those credentials encrypted, obviously, with that key we generated just for you, separate from those details. We're going to have only one system where we kind of talked about our identity services in some of those diagrams you were showing earlier. That's the only thing that can access either of these. It's obviously no access to internet. It's within its own private network within ScreenCloud. And we're then going to use Amazon's IAM as well, so that we can guarantee that the requests coming in are the only ones that can actually match certain IAM rules unique to your organization. And again, that service is going to have to be able to take on those roles. So without getting too technical there, I suppose, it's our way of ensuring that even if you got in, it's separating every customer from every other customer as much. That isolation, again, it's all about minimizing. If the worst ever happens, how do we minimize that? And we've just gone as deep down that stack as we can. And we have more information for people interested in it. There's a security white paper we've written up diagrams and more of this if anyone wants to see detail and talk about that in detail.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's, as Michael said, we are really happy to go into detail on that when we do demos and trials and things like that, because we want you to be as happy as you can be with the way that we've approached this. And also that feedback is really amazing, because this is just launch day. There's so much more to come. All right, let's go on to the next question. Can you clarify whether or not this will work with on-premise dashboard services? That's an interesting question. We do get that quite a lot, don't we?
Absolutely, yeah. To be honest, one of them, again, the dashboards live where the most important information is, and a lot of services, it's custom things that are local to you, they're on your network, and then again, the link is there. The most valuable information is also the most valuable dashboard. So, the short answer right now, like at launch, we're purely cloud, so it's services that are accessible over the internet is what we support right now. But again, like you say, this is launch day. We absolutely plan to get to on-premise. The interesting thing with on-premise is very much that it's unique to your IT setup. So how that networking works. So some places we talk to, they are entirely air-gapped. So you have to be on premise, physically in certain locations. And this could be things where maybe we ship hardware that you're happy to have on that network as well. Others, if you open up a VPN, obviously a bit of a remote working world these days, pretty much everybody's got to have a VPN. Can ScreenCloud take on that kind of user? Again, we can work with you to narrow that down to the smallest possible user, access to just what you want, and that's where your custom IT team will help. We can look at things like dedicated IPs, where we can kind of give you some guarantee about who this user is, where it's coming from, so you can actually recognize that traffic. So again, for anyone interested, we just love to chat to you. The systems are unique to you, effectively.
Exactly. Like half of the battle from our point of view with the R&D is just actually having the customers in those scenarios to work with, because it's all about really getting into those environments. Obviously, as much as we don't want to get full access in, but we actually really, it's more about understanding your needs and how you're setting it up so that we're building things in the right way. But that's cool. But yeah, on-premise is definitely a big one, and that's probably the next big thing for us to look at once we've got once we're supporting as many web-based dashboards as possible. So the next question, is it possible to define how often the ScreenCloud dashboard screenshots refresh? Our favorite subject, Michael. We were talking about this for 2 hours yesterday. Hoping to display real-time machine health metrics in as close to real time. Great question. Michael, fire away.
No, it's spot on. We really went to town on this, so absolutely. What we've done right now is for the initial launch and for as long as it takes, and this is about getting the feedback, we agree, the live feeling of it is really important. So what we've done is we've set the refresh time for now across all dashboards. Everyone's got to update every 5 seconds. The impact of that when you have it on screen is it's almost like a ticker. It's just going to look and feel exactly like a live dashboard. So where your Mark's explained, the tech underneath is very much taking screenshots. Screenshots can be fast, and if we're doing the right things on the devices, showing preloading, prefetching, running ahead of time, knowing what's coming next, that doesn't need to feel like load one image. You're never going to see spinners and slideshows and all the rest of it. The idea is make it feel lifelike. So we put everyone to the 5 seconds, but then over time, we'll give you that ability to customize. Because the example here is a great one. You're showing real-time health metrics. I get that changes regularly. If someone else is looking at a sales dashboard that updates once a day, we don't need to run that every 5 seconds for you. And again, and that's where we just want you to use it as much as you actually find the value, and that's 100% will be in your court. I must admit,
it feels kind of like magic, because obviously when you think of screenshots, you think of you doing a screenshot yourself, and it's kind of a bit manual and clunky. But when that's automated and run in the cloud, pretty powerful servers, it is like just watching a dashboard just updating in front of your eyes. And obviously because the screenshot is exactly the same, the layout doesn't change. You just see the numbers and the graphs moving. And it is actually makes me feel quite calm, quite zen when I'm watching it. Well, unless it's showing any error messages or something like that, like ScreenCloud error. No, we don't want that one going up.
No,
All right,
let's never happen, Mark.
that never happens. That never
No.
happens. Come on, we're all IT people. We don't need to lie. Okay, let's go to the next question. Is it possible to define how often? Oh no, sorry, we did that one. About pricing for dashboards. Will this be included in my subscription or on top of? So yeah, I'll take that one. So the pricing is actually in the business tier for ScreenCloud. It is quite an expensive feature to run. As you can imagine, what we're doing is we're running up individual servers for every single dashboard we support. So this needs to go into our premium package because, well, yeah, the actual cost of just running a customer and doing it as securely as we are is relatively high. The Teams package, which is a kind of mid-tier package, includes Power BI. And the reason for that is that we don't have to have those servers running in the background, because the way that Microsoft have done Power BI, which is good because it's actually one of the most popular dashboards in the world, is that we can access those dashboards via the API. So it's in the business tier for our premium premium package. The great thing about the business tier is it also comes with things like kind of enterprise SSO, ScreenCloud broadcast, so you can pump videos, live streaming out onto there as well, embeddable channels and things like that. So it's up there. Now, if you what we don't expect anyone really to do is just go, oh, I'll upgrade to the business tier then. So if you do want to try this out, anyone, existing customers, new customers, it doesn't matter who you are, just go into dashboards in Studio or just go to screencloud.com/dashboards, request a demo or just request it. If you request it inside the app, then we pull all the data about your account and we can actually provision it and get you set up faster. So it's actually probably best to ask for it inside your account. We'll then give you like 2 weeks, and if you need a bit longer, no problem, just to try it out yourself, show it to people internally, see how it fits, and also experiment with other dashboards that we haven't mentioned. And then if it's all good, then we can talk about upgrading and all of that as well. Cool. So the next question is, it seems like the engine basically is generating a screenshot. Absolutely. Could this be expanded to include home-brewed solutions that present data on an intranet URL, for example? Yes, this is a great one. And this is kind of why we architected it in this way, wasn't it, Michael?
Oh, absolutely. To be honest, my background, like I'm a front-end dev, like hacking these together was before I came to ScreenCloud, exactly how I did it. And nice little charts, internal, custom made, like you get very, very proud of those tools when you do it. So yeah, it needs to support that. Absolutely. The whole idea with dashboards now is like, this is generic. It is a browser that is going to be able to do anything your browser can do. That's what we have tried to do. And we can talk more about that, but it's, if you can see it, like we're going to be able to display it. We might need to do some tweaks and some things to work with you if there's something really, really custom in there, but it'll not be major changes. Absolutely, they're the best things to get on screen. So like, please do, and please share.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I noticed when we started doing early beta tests with this, actually about a year ago, and actually the next question is going to cover a bit of the history of this. What we found was that in most companies, there was a blend of dashboards. So no one was really just using one dashboard. Each team was using different suppliers. And in addition to that, almost every big company had some kind of homegrown solution that's actually probably the most important dashboard, because if it's homegrown, that means they've done something truly bespoke, which is probably one of the key operational dashboards of the business. And we were working with, I won't say who it was, but a very large internet company in the US, and they had about 80 internal dashboards. And there was one developer on the engineering team who'd actually built the home-brewed solution. And he was just like, I don't want to support this anymore. Can you guys take it on? And we did. And that was what we worked on with him. So yeah. So please, as I said, we just want to keep talking to customers and figuring out ways that we can help you do this. Next question, right? Amazing. We spent 2 years on this. I know. I had much less gray hair then. What was the hardest part of getting it done? I mean, I'll probably chime in with my thoughts on this, and then Michael, you can give the engineering answer. I think in year one, the hardest part of this was actually just getting the approach right. Because I think initially what we thought about was we would build like pre-built recipes for specific dashboards. So we'd have like a bit like how we've done with apps for social media or something. So we'd have like a Datadog app, a Tableau app, a Power BI app, and we would just separate them all down. But then what we realized is that even if you did it that way, there's still 100 different ways that you can configure Tableau and set it up and run reports and things like that. And also there was this really long tail of either internal solutions or quite industry specific solutions. And we'd end up building 1,000 apps. So we actually went quite far down that, and we actually did have those specific apps. And then we effectively tore up the whole thing, took some of the R&D out of it and did it again. Michael, if you pick up the story from there. So that's like year one. Year two.
Where things get a little better. Yeah, no, absolutely. That change is actually what the hardest part in the engineering side. So the switch from whenever you're doing something that is unique to one system and you're like, okay, cool, Tableau has this feature, like this is how I get to it, this is my way of doing it. And then you just start over on the next one. What we've done and what Dashboards is doing is it's generic. So the dashboards that Mark highlighted in his presentation, they're some of the ones that we say, like their launch date, like we've covered every journey we can think to do in products like Tableau and Grafana, and they're some of the biggest ones out there. Like we can pretty much guarantee you're not going to break it. It's going to work perfectly. Actually, it's going to work on a lot more than just what you've seen there, like already. And this is where, like internally, like things like I think one of the guys was really keen on Flight Radar on Tenet, and it looks really good. Again, the 5-second update is quite a nice one where the planes are kind of jumping across the Atlantic. Less planes these days, obviously, but still working. So that idea where the internet can be built in a million different ways. Every web page you built 20 years ago still works, which is really good in one way. It also means everything that you see and do, where we're trying to record the journey and see things like a menu, follow what you clicked and follow like the way to tap that filter. It's different from product to product. So that's why we're saying that these are the ones we're 100% on. Other products are going to work. Like a lot of other dashboards do. And that's why if there's one you're interested in, like shout to us. Like we can do the demo there and then with you, like on the chat. If we can get in, it'll probably work. But see, trying to figure out all those rules, and we call them like strategies, which is our way of following, right? You triggered a pop-up. Where do I find that pop-up in the source code? Where do I find that in the web page? That was a challenging problem and a lot of fun.
Often things that look simple are ridiculously complicated underneath. But I'm glad we put a lot of that energy in there because this is such an important thing. So the next question we've got is, can you explain more the process of how you get the screen grab of the dashboard a bit more? And how do you know which dashboard I want to show just by being able to log into the BI platform? So I'll start a bit of that because it was quite quick in the video. I think we sped it up. But basically what we're doing is in the recipe, in the recorder, as you're going through, we're not only recording the login credentials, we're also recording the steps you do afterwards. So whether you then click on an internal navigation, once you're logged in, you click on an internal navigation item, go to a list. On that list, you find a dashboard title, you click on that, and maybe you click on full screen. And so you actually guide the recorder all the way to the end point. And when you're happy, you either select the whole screen, or I believe you could select a portion of the screen. It doesn't have to be the whole screen. So you can remove things like menu items and make it look a bit more professional for the screen. Am I right in saying that? Sorry, I kind of stole your thunder there, Michael. I was just so excited to explain the tech. Now I understand it.
You're spot on. If you want to come help us fix the next couple of features next week, I'll send you an invite.
Dangerous coding.
No, you're spot on. And the way to think on that is basically, picture we have another browser in the cloud. That's the simplest way to put it. So when you're setting up the dashboard, we don't want you having to write a script. We deliberately, a lot of companies do it. It's not something we want you to do or to maintain. It's not user friendly. The teams in your company aren't going to do it. So the recorder is our way of, you're going to go to the site, install our Chrome extension, or like we'll have extensions for other browsers as well in time, but you're going to install that and navigate to the site. As Mark said, navigate around, pick what you want. As you're doing it, we're just capturing what happened, and we'll then translate that into that sequence and run it again in our own browser in the cloud. And we do a few things where we advise, hey, let's make those two things as close as possible. So things like when you're recording it, we use incognito mode. We'll suggest you do it. It's not things you have to remember. That the tool is going to guide you and tell you, hey, click this box, etc. But if you kind of have that clean slate on your laptop and just navigate as you normally would, you just pull up your dashboard, nothing fancy, no extra training needed. It's going to run the exact same way in that browser in the cloud. It's just going to work forever.
Yeah, it's awesome. So actually moving on from that, what's any feedback been from early users that we could share so far? So, I mean, we've worked pretty closely with early users on this, well, literally for over a year now when we were experimenting with our version 1 on this. And obviously, a lot of the feedback has been about how to fix bugs and how to fix things. But I guess that's not really the feedback you're asking for. It's more like how have they found it in terms of our approach. I've been quite close on those discussions, and I think, genuinely, and obviously, we're selling dashboards, so but I do actually say this with sincerity. I think that the people that we've been working with, who are power users of dashboards or have had to try and figure this out themselves internally, such as that large internet company I mentioned earlier, I think they really appreciate how deep we've gone on this. Genuinely, this hasn't just been one or two people for 2 years. It's been quite a lot. And it's everything from product design and like the thinking, as well as the engineering, as well as the web operations, just to even make all of this possible. And I think that they appreciate the elegance of the solution. It's actually quite simple, but they understand the complexity underneath. And I think that the other thing that generally people like about this is that we stopped in our tracks of just trying to support this dashboard type, and that we saw the world for what it was, which is that there are just tons of different dashboards. And the reality is, it's not just dashboards. There's a lot of content which lives behind a login that people want to see on a screen. I mean, we actually had this working last week with LinkedIn. So we just used secure dashboards just to show LinkedIn, because LinkedIn doesn't give you an easy API access for content from LinkedIn. It's strangely locked down, that one. And we've used it for loads of different things. So I think generally the simplicity, the security, and the breadth of what you could use the tool for has been the good feedback that we've had so far. And that's not to say we've nailed every single thing. There are lots of things like on-premise, VPNs, certain things we need to go and support. So this is far from over, but it's now at a point where we feel we can comfortably share with the wider world and get customers getting real value out of it. Cool, right, so the next question. Our IT company has been recommending we get away from Chrome. Is there a reason you chose this platform? So I'm guessing by Chrome, you mean the Chrome browser rather than Chrome OS. The actual, I think the main reason, it was basically the configurability, and be able to have the extension was the extension's only for the recording part. It's not required for any other user. It's just for whichever user is setting up the dashboard. Maybe, Michael, you could explain why Chrome helps us achieve these things.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, Chrome is completely configurable. It's the driver for us it's the one that we run in the cloud. There's really nice interfaces for us to actually control and manipulate a browser in the cloud without having to do weird things to it, where we're injecting scripts, or if anyone here kind of remembers Script Monkey from the Firefox days, like there's dodgy things that I'm glad we don't have to do when we use Chrome. Importantly, though, for what your IT team's advising is that Chrome, underneath the engine now that powers Chrome, if we get to that, is called Chromium, ironically. It also powers a number of other browsers, and the one you're probably most interested in, I imagine, is Microsoft Edge. So Microsoft built their own browser for years and years and years, the Internet Explorer. They then built Edge, again, custom, and about a year ago, they switched fully to powered by the same Chromium engine. So underneath, they're actually more or less the same thing now, but the pieces around it are different. I can understand there's different things and sort of extensions and security rules, but effectively, Edge, we actually have the extension ready for Edge internally already, where it'll be pushed imminently. Anything powered off that, you'll be able to use it as well. As Mark said, this is just for the person recording that, so no, yes. You'll not be stuck.
You won't be stuck with that. And actually, I didn't know about the Edge one. That's really cool. Oh, wow, okay. See that, I'm learning too. Glad we're doing a Q&A.
Plenty more features ready to go.
Right, so this is a good question here. If my credentials change for the dashboard provider, this solution needs to be set up again, right? I believe, yeah, absolutely. The recipe would need to be rerun, wouldn't it?
Yes, so at the minute we don't have anyone modify the recipe, and the reason really is that we don't want you to actually have to think about it as a script or understand how it's stitched together underneath or what those steps mean. We want to make that journey so quick that it's actually easier just to go in, tick, log in again, navigate to your dashboards, and hit done. Like, don't feel that you have to maintain these forever and do a whole balancing act. It should be as quick as navigating to that dashboard one time.
Yeah, generally it takes about 1 minute. Once, assuming you've got the login, it takes it's really quick. Cool. So if I'm in comms and would love to see more dashboards mixed in with what we're already communicating with teams, operationally, how do you think I should do that in my organization? All right, this is one for me. Haha. Company TV, my favorite concept. I think if you're just using now, let's take the setting. If that dashboard is mission critical dashboard data and everyone needs to see it at all times, then you don't really want to be switching it out with any other content. There are certain screens which should just be dedicated to the dashboards with which they're serving, but that isn't the majority of screens. And I think quite often what we've seen with digital signage is that the department of the business which has kind of sponsored the need for digital signage effectively starts to kind of take over. And so if it came from the people team, it will all be people updates. If it came from the data and analytics team, it will just all be dashboards. If it came from the branding team, it will all be kind of branding. And really, a business is a blend of all of these things. You know, if you think about your own Slack channel, Microsoft Teams, it's going to be some numeric updates, some people updates, some news, some product features. Maybe there's an event going on, a new joiner. And I personally believe that most screens should see a blend of all of these things as your content strategy, or it just shows just one angle. And it's not just about the mix of content, it's also where the source of that content is. Is this only coming from headquarters? Is this only coming from on high? We found the best companies and the most successful companies have a blend of messaging coming from HQ, but also allowing local teams to actually update content and share content too. So you're seeing more a reflection of the environment you're in and the people around you and that local news, as well as the big company news as well. Just like you do on cable TV would be national news and local news. So I think the key is about coming up with a content strategy, and company TV is not a product, it's a strategy. And our professional services and account management teams are here to help you implement that, because there's lots of elements there, and we want to introduce you to those concepts and then work with you on a plan, which might be a simple plan to begin with. And I'm thinking of one really large retailer that we did this with. We started off just showing dashboards about sales metrics. About a year and a half later, we were showing internal training programs, new product launches, stock prices, new joiners to the team. It became a whole thing. There was even a benefits channel about how to take charge of benefits. It went on and on and on. But yeah, it's talk to us more about that. It's a big thing. Our company TV. So yeah, the next question is actually pretty much the same thing. So yeah, you can already do company TV yourself using the screens. There's no real difference. What we're basically adding is a new thing into the mix, which those secure dashboards can now join the rest of that content, which maybe didn't have as much of a security element to it, where people weren't as worried about that content being public or where it was sourced from. But with this type of content, this dashboard content, normally people are much more worried about how secure is this in its display, because really these are the numbers of the inside of the business. So again, if you'd like to talk to us more about that, like this is something I can riff on literally all day, but I'll try not to. I'll keep it going. So where do you see this feature evolving next year? I think we sort of covered that a little bit earlier, but I think on-prem, VPN, other forms of 2FA potentially, and I think there's different types of gestures and controls that we need to figure out as well, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. We basically, to be honest, I just talk about it as two halves to people. So there's a few things that are around like getting that foot in the door, which is those login methods, what you just described. We have to get over that hurdle, and there'll be some that we can't get over just yet, and work our way down that list. And the other half is, once we're in, can we do everything you want to do? And this is all the sort of weird and wonderful, the homegrown dashboards, the smaller providers, the little SaaS apps that actually have quite nice, like a lot of these products have really cool little dashboards internally to themselves. Can we support every one of those? And like, really, I mean, success to me is going to look like there is just a million different use cases, most that we never ever thought of, and that's that's good there.
The beauty of a product is once it really touches customers en masse, suddenly all of the feedback comes back in that we hadn't ever thought about. So this is this is a huge thing. So we're expecting a tidal wave of this, and we're going to keep on going. This is not just a feature. This is a pillar of ScreenCloud. On the next question, I think we've actually answered this one already. Can we work with internal proprietary dashboards? Absolutely. That's kind of what we're looking to do. Please reach out and let's talk about how yours works, and let's see if we can get you supported now. I feel like my team will have a lot of feedback about this once we're able to get in and really give it a spin. How should we get feedback back to you, Michael and Mark? So actually, that's a really, really good question. So the best way to do that is actually it's probably through the account management route, Or if what we can do is, if you've got like, you want to do a working session with us, we could set up like a Zoom call and kind of just go through loads of different things. What we're also doing is some of the calls are being recorded. This has been very, very useful, actually. So we use a tool called chorus.ai, which kind of records Zoom calls and things like that. So actually, if you're talking to your account manager, with your permission, of course, we'll record the call, and then we can share snippets of it with different members of the team. So they don't have to listen to a whole hour of feedback. If some of the feedback might be around like the business model and pricing or whatever it might be, we can actually chunk up the call and then give that reference to different people. So I think, yeah, just giving it a good spin and then setting up a time for us to have a chat. We love doing that. That's the best way that we learn. So thank you, and we would love to work with you more. What would be some of your favorite ideal uses for dashboards? Oh, okay, right. This is a long tail one. Obviously we use dashboards internally at ScreenCloud a lot. The ones that I tend to look at are mainly to do with kind of growth metrics at the business. And also we use Zendesk so that's like Salesforce dashboards and Tableau, they're the two providers we use. In addition to that, we use Zendesk for our customer support, and Zendesk has a really good dashboard which shows our response rates to tickets, our customer satisfaction ratings, also the types of issues that are coming in, so I can get a flavor of what's happening on the support side. Obviously, that's very personal to ScreenCloud. I think, generally speaking, what we're seeing with companies, the ones that rely on it the most, it's around sales data and marketing data, operational data. So we do a lot of work with warehouses, manufacturing, things like that, and call centers, where the dashboard really is what's telling you what's going on and how things are performing. So I think those are great. Another big area that I'm really fascinated by is this, they call it the deskless worker. So 80% of people in employment in the world globally are considered deskless. So those are people working in everything from education, manufacturing, hospitality, retail. They don't sit at desks with computers all day, and they can't easily log in and see this data, but they're on the front lines, and that data could be so useful to them. So we're seeing a huge amount of interest of people where they're putting this in like the back office sort of staff room. People are seeing it before a shift begins and things like that. So I think that's one of the best ways of using dashboards. Cool. I think we've got time for one more question, and then we are done. It might be time to open a beer. It's been a long week. Well, it's also 6 p.m. here in the UK, by the way. I'm not opening a beer at 9 a.m. in the East or West Coast. So how do I try this out today? Who should we contact, and tips for getting started? So that's a great one to end on, just to remind everyone. If you're new to ScreenCloud, go to screencloud.com/dashboards. You can request a demo there, download any white papers, and see what's going on. If you're an existing customer in trial, if you're a new customer in trial, you haven't yet bought from ScreenCloud, then your sales representative who will reach out to you on the trial is the best person to book in a trial for this feature. So this feature needs to be turned on for a trial account. It's not there by default because it is an expensive premium feature. So when a customer is interested in it, we turn it on, and we also help educate you on how to basically on how to get started, right? So if you haven't seen something like this, you might kind of like, well, how do I get going? So what we're thinking of doing is, we don't want you to give us your login credentials. Like, that's not great news. So what we'll do is probably set up a Zoom call, and then you would share your screen, and then our representative would talk you through how to get set up. So when you're entering any of those login details, we literally don't see it. They go straight into the AWS password manager, and no one sees your credentials. So we'll talk you through how to do that. You can also reach out to our support team, so just support@screencloud.com, and they will route you through to the best person in your region. And if you have an existing account manager, then we'll make sure that they get updated as well. And then during a trial of it, we reckon there's going to be loads of questions on how to get this going. My tip to getting started would be, usually a company has many, many dashboards, but think about the dashboard which would make the most impact in the audience that's going to be around that screen. So think, where is the screen situated? Who is the likely people to be going past it? And what would they benefit from the most? And you might even want to think about it not being just the dashboard you're using every day, because some dashboards, people cram a lot of information on there. If that's going up on a screen, it needs to be a bit more visible, a bit further back. So you might want to think about a simpler dashboard, maybe that just has, just 5 or 6, maybe 6 for a nice grid, kind of simple metrics, very visual, rather than small numbers and things like that. So what I find is I don't look at the dashboard every day when I'm in the office. When I'm back in the office, we're at home right now in the UK, but I do look at it embedded in our intranet. It's more about spotting the difference. So it's not like I'm going up scrutinizing every single thing. What I'm looking at is suddenly goes, oh, that's gone up or that's gone down. Why did that happen? And then it prompts a conversation. It prompts me to go and talk to someone and say, hey, what's going on over here? Or have you noticed that? Is that a trend that we should look into? And that's kind of what screens are basically there for. They're there to prompt conversations and human actions. They're not there to replace people. They're there to help people and to trigger moments. So showing happy birthday on a screen, for example, isn't really the best thing. That's not going to make anyone feel too warm inside. But if that triggers you to go, oh, it's their birthday, and you buy them something in the canteen later on to say happy birthday, or if you see that number, or if you see a new sale come in and you go, hey, Leroy, he's on our team, I think he's listening, nice job on that sale, that's awesome. You know, it's triggered by that dashboard, but it's the human interaction which counts. And that's what this is all about, really. It's trying to make people feel more connected, more involved, more accountable to a degree, but also more like they are contributing to something bigger. And that's basically kind of the mission of ScreenCloud. So that was a really nice question to end on. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in and asking those really intelligent questions and just being involved and offering to give feedback. You know, that's everything we could ask for. Michael, thank you so much for coming on and facing the music, facing everyone. I hope that was special.
That was a lot of fun. It's awesome seeing people keen to get on. So no, absolutely delighted. Great to have it out there.
And congratulations to the team. Honestly, like the engineering team has worked super hard the last couple of months. We were crushing bugs last week, yesterday, even some today, maybe. just to pull back the curtain a little bit. Everyone knows that's how real life works, unfortunately. But it's great. And we're going to keep on crushing those bugs and making this a key feature for ScreenCloud. So thank you, congratulations to you and the team, to the wider ScreenCloud team, and thank you as well to our customers for all the feedback and support. And we would love to see what you think of this. We're very excited if you hadn't already noticed. I think that's the end of launch day. Thank you, and we'll say goodbye there. Thank you, everyone. Take care, and we look forward to speaking to you all soon. Cheers. Bye, everyone. I think it's still live.
It might be off, who knows? Like,
I don't know.
Anyone just want to have a chat with us now? Like,
yeah. If I open a beer now, is that very inappropriate?
Do a virtual